And so I'm just recording. All right. And then I will screen share your presentation, and then I'll introduce you, and then we will just start rocking and rolling this evening. Thank you for joining as our speaker, and for everyone who's here with us tonight. And then, of course, anyone watching this recorded session afterwards, we appreciate you being here. So with that, we're going to go ahead and I'm going to click the present mode and make sure this works. Wait a minute there to adjust, and we will start through our slides. So our speaker tonight is Miss Joslyn Rafferty-Crammer. She, her little bio is there that you're welcome to read, but she's been a huge asset to the 4-H program here in Pueblo County. She's a local poultry producer and has experience with a variety of poultry birds outside of just chicken. So Joslyn, if you want to jump in and kind of talk about your background and your favorite poultry birds to raise and everything else about you, we'd love to hear from you.
Sure. So right now I'm working on conservative breeds. So it's a I can't say the word, but we're trying to conserve some of our heritage breeds. We're losing some of our older breeds. My beautiful Vanna White here today, she's a Dominique. She's one of the first breeds here in the United States. And they were down to only 4 breeders at one point. So we're trying to work on bringing this breed back. I love the conserving and promoting. I also raise turkeys. I'm looking at getting into emu now, so I'm really excited about that. I've had quail, ducks, geese, you name it. I also raise dairy goats as like a side hobby, but poultry is kind of my main focus that I really love.
Awesome. Well, we're so thrilled to have you, and we will just jump right into the rest of our discussion tonight. So with that, just so you all are aware, we are looking at this from a small acreage style, which is kind of like 100 birds or less per species. Obviously, if you have a bigger operation, you can certainly use all these tools that Ms. Joslyn's going to go through tonight. But just be aware that this is more geared towards the smaller operation people, especially if you have smaller flocks or just multiple birds in one space, and how you help make sure they're happy and healthy over the winter. So understanding that you want them to coexist if you have various species in one space, and just realizing that that balance is going to be the key that helps keep your birds happy and healthy besides everything else Ms. Joslyn's going to cover tonight. So with that, Ms. Joslyn, I will go on mute here and hand it over to you, and we'll just go through your slides as needed.
And I'll just say next slide and you'll flip. Awesome. Okay, so we're going to talk about your main concepts for overwintering birds. I know that's kind of stressful for everybody. The spring, you get your chicks. By summertime, everything is going really well. Fall, they're just still doing well, but then you start getting into those colder weather and you're worried about them. So we have different breeds, obviously, of chickens, and they all can adapt to the temperature, but differently. So like my little Vanna White here, she has a smaller comb. So the smaller combs, they won't get as much frostbite. She doesn't have as much skin showing. Your larger combs, which are more of your Mediterranean chickens, they can be prone to frostbite, which is something we'll talk about later. And I think this is really kind of a neat fact about chickens is they can lower their internal metabolism so they can resist the cold temperatures. I just think that's an amazing fact. They're naturally hot-blooded. They're very warm. If you feel them, they're warmer than other species, but they can actually adapt to the cold. So next slide. So we're going to talk about the house, their coop and heating. And so we want it to be warm, comfortable. We want it to be draft-free or draft-proof. You don't want any kind of drafts blowing in or like lower down or by their feet or their combs or their heads. Those are the 2 areas that we need to protect. But you also need ventilation. And I know that sounds like a contradiction, but think about it. If you ever lock your chickens in at night and they have no ventilation, how warm is their house in the morning? It's really warm. It's humid. It's warm. And those are the 2 things that we're trying to kind of regulate with birds. We don't want the humidity in there. Humidity and cold temperatures is what causes the frostbite on their combs. So we really want to regulate those. To me, they're the enemies of winter chicken care and keeping. And then we also want to talk about when what do they do when it's cold? They will hunch down onto their feet on their roost, They tuck their head into their wing. They're conserving heat. They fluff up a little bit. So that's the chicken kind of adapting to the temperature and regulating their body to conserve their energy so they're not freezing, but they're also protecting those core areas that we want to look at. If they have larger wattles, where they're underneath the wing, they're tucked in there. So I think it's really kind of neat how they're built into kind of adapt to the cold weather. And some breeds are a little bit better than others, and that's okay. I mean, we have some breeds from like Thailand or Puerto Rico. They can't go below 45 degrees. So for those, we would have to have like a heated environment, just like you wouldn't put a parrot that's used to tropical environments outside, especially today. But other birds can be okay out there in those temperatures. So next slide. So first things first, I know we're a little behind the ball with it being winter time, especially today, but try beforehand to winterize your coop. Make sure if you have leaks, if you have any drafts or any predators. I know we're all very diligent about keeping our coops safe, but maybe repair those before you're out there in the wind trying to fight Mother Nature to get everything done. Insulation can be kind of expensive, especially right now with housing costs. I think in mine right now, I have like an R13 and an R19, and it was left over from construction sites. Not everybody's that fortunate. You can also use cardboard. You can line it with those feed sacks after you're done using them. Something the chickens will not peck and eat is obviously kind of preferable. The white foam board, really great stuff, and the silver foam board, but they will eat it and we don't want them to digest it. So if you put something over it like the feed sacks, awesome, perfect, and it'll help insulate. And also we also want to look at their run. For me, I have like well, today they took a beating because of the wind. It's one of the things about Pueblo learning to live with. But we try to have a like windbreaks or a roof with netting and shade cloth is what I use, because the wind can kind of go through, and it's been the least beat up at my house, but it provides them a spot where they can kind of get out of the weather a little bit. They have a little bit more dirt on the ground. It gives them a little bit of that shelter for outside activities that they need. Hold on, Mama. Okay, next slide. Sorry, it's your first time on camera and she's a little nervous. So we're talking about the ventilation and the humidity. So you can get kind of like that fumey smell of the chicken poop or the ammonia in there. It's also, if you do, there's like the deep litter method, you'll smell it build up a little bit. So we want ventilation. Ideally, the ventilation is going to be up high. And if you think about it, kind of in the summertime, heat rises. So it's going to go out, but it also helps to kind of aerate your space to keep them from respiratory diseases. And the vents, if we put them up high, they're not directly on the birds. And that's what we don't want. We don't want that breeze blowing in. They're wet because they've been playing outside. We don't want that breeze blowing in when it's ice cold. And that's when you start seeing those damages from the elements and frostbite. So next slide. So with the bedding, everybody has their preference. I've tried straw, I've tried hemp bedding, I've tried shavings, I've tried different types of shavings, but I've kind of found that, and it's also the easiest, I've found that the straw has been the easiest to clean out, and it also helps to kind of trap that moisture in. I've even had people that will layer like the straw layer, then they'll do the wood shavings on the next layer, like a good pine level, and it helps with the moisture and kind of gives that balance. But you put these, and then there's also the deep litter method, which I'm kind of a fan of. It's kind of, some people are like, you're only cleaning out your chicken coop how often? But what it does is, think about it, it's kind of like a hotbed for growing plants. It has that really deep layer that holds in the heat, and as you layer more on, because it kind of makes it a little easier for the birds and it's more sanitary, but it holds in that heat. Then at nighttime, it'll release that heat. It helps to kind of keep your birds' feet warm, the ones that want to stay on the ground, or it keeps their coop from like freezing. So I'm a really big fan of the deep layer method. I don't use lighting at night. For me, I think of winter as kind of a time for my girls to rest. Some of them have just got done molting. They've had a rough, year. Some of them have raised babies and they're still trying to recover from that. So I let them kind of rest. I don't totally depend on them for their eggs. I do have a little bit larger flock, but if I'm getting 25% less eggs, I'm okay with that. I think it's a time for them to kind of rest and kind of rejuvenate so they can gear back up for spring. So next slide. And space outside. They're going to get bored. They need space to roam. That's easier said than done in the wintertime. Sometimes you're out there shoveling. Sometimes you're out there, it's ice. You're trying to get that clear. But you're trying to just keep them a little bit of dirt. You can put some scratch down or corn. Corn's really good for birds in the wintertime. It helps with building heat. It's something I recommend. People always want to give like frozen corn in the summertime. Well, corn's sugar, so it increases their metabolism. You don't want that in the summertime. You want that in the wintertime. You want them to increase their metabolism for heat sources. So I recommend more of the corn for the colder months for your birds instead of the scratch. They want to go outside though. They're going to get bored. Think of it. I mean, would you want to be trapped inside all winter long when it's cold? You're going to get kind of edgy. You're going to start, I don't know, drawing on the walls. We had a 3-year-old here, so that was what cooked into my mind. They're going to get a little busy. They want to do something. So if you can, that's when the covered outside or the wind protection really helps them to get out there and kind of wear off some of that energy. I've seen them become a little bit aggressive. You'll have hens battling with hens, or you'll have hens like getting upset with their rooster and just kind of battling, and they're just bored. They're looking at something to do. So I've done hay bales. I have wire spools outside that they jump around on. What else do they have? I have a bench. So I feel like I have like this obstacle course where they can get out of weather, but they can still be moving. I don't have any musical instruments up against the wall for my birds. I do have what I call busy balls. And sorry, Mama. It's a ball that you open up and you can use them for dogs or anything. And you put food inside. And then as they roll or peck it, the ball moves. It keeps them I don't know. It just keeps them busy, keeps them kind of entertained and engaged. But yeah, something that they can get up. If it's like slushy or muddy, those perches are really nice, or the spools. Everything works. So these are the wire spools. They're wooden that my girls jump up on. So next slide. Here we go. This is the entertainment. This is you're all probably rolling your eyes right now thinking this is really silly, but no, like the cabbage on a rope, huge. You'll watch them out there and it's like a soccer game. My turkeys will actually play with a rubber ball like they're playing soccer also, and they'll run around and kick it, which I think is hilarious. I've never seen any other animal or bird anyway do this. You can also hang the dried corn cobs. Corn is really good in the wintertime for your birds. Hang those, they'll peck them, gives them something to do. Those little, they're like, I think they're for cats, but they have like a bell inside. They'll peck that and then it swings back and forth and they'll try and play it. And it almost becomes like a tetherball game for them, but it keeps them from pecking or turning their energy onto one of their friends, which really will save you in the long run. But yeah, I'm really a fan of the corn hanging. It's kind of what we do. So next slide. Okay, this is the important part. This is the combs. Sorry. This is kind of like we're talking about the little girl here with the Dominique. She has a little rose comb, but you can see there are various types of combs. The larger they are, the more susceptible they are to weather. So some people do apply like petroleum jelly on it to help. You have to apply it a couple times. It helps to keep the moisture and it helps to insulate for like the really cold snaps. But you have to apply it over and over again. And sometimes if you have over 100 birds or you have 100 birds, even if you have 50 birds, that's time consuming with the job and life and everything. So really keeping them out of the weather, keeping them draft free and moisture free are going to be your big ones there, because I honestly don't use petroleum jelly on my birds. It's my personal. I don't put it on their feet. I don't put it on their combs or wattles. It's kind of a controversial topic, but kind of like, I think it's the horse blankets or the blankets on your goats. Some people do and some people don't in the winter. So next slide. This is really kind of interesting. So we're looking at the different types, and you will see like it looks like we have a nice male. The picture is a little millefleur d'uncle, it looks like, but the picture here with the three, we're comparing the damage. And if you look at, initially when you see damage, you'll see just the white tips. They might even be like a duller red, or it could be like a maroonish color. That's kind of your first sign that, hey, maybe I need to step up my winter care a little bit. And then as you go, you'll see like we have the more like middle frostbite here. They're starting to turn black. That's the, skin's decaying, the tissues are going down. You will see if they really do start to be affected by the cold. After a while, it almost looks like sores on their comb, which to me looks painful. And they can also be on their wattles. They will bleed. It's like a big scab will kind of form. It can pull off. Those ones I would put stuff on. I'd put them on the middle. Actually, the middle guy would start to get some more care. But that last guy there, those tips are going to not rejuvenate. They're not going to come back. So he might have a blunted rose comb, or not rose comb, single comb after that. And you'll just see like gradual lumps instead of like the spikes, if that makes any sense. And his wattles, part of them might come off too. So just like if you have frostbite, you might lose a toe. This is kind of the same thing. I have no idea about humans and toes and stuff like that. You're okay, Mama. We are losing our assistant. Okay, next slide. She doesn't like that one. So for water, every animal, that's what we're based off of. That's the one thing that we want every animal to have, and human. We consist of water. So we want to rejuvenate, we want to use that. Dehydration, it can, lose to your kidney problems. They also have like digestive problems. They have to have the water mixed in with their crop or their gizzard to help with the muscles to constrict and retract. So it'll grind up the food, and they'll actually, you've seen them where they've pooped probably, and it's like rock hard looking stuff. They might need a little more water. So water is really important. You can use heated bowls. Inside my coop, I do have a plug-in. It's like a metal base. And then I have a 5-gallon water on top that's metal. But I have a little funny cage thing so they can't get to the plugs. I'm always worried they're going to electrocute themselves or start a fire. That's my big thing. You can also empty it out every night. My buckets outside, my black rubber buckets, I empty those out, and then we fill them up in the morning. You can add salt, which will make them drink more water, but salt will help the water from freezing. You can also add molasses. And chickens do not have olfactory glands or taste, so they can't figure it out. But the molasses will also encourage them to drink more. It's kind of like, I always liken it to goats. It helps to kind of rejuvenate goats, especially after delivery when they've had babies. So we put a little molasses in for chickens too. Your next slide. This is the big one. So this is like a picture of a common space heater that we probably all have for our offices, because not all office buildings are heated. So this is kind of like another questionable area for poultry care. They don't need an external heat source. As long as we have an insulated coop, they're free from the drafts and the weather. Their little bodies will hold on to their heat, and they can actually go down pretty cold. Negative temperatures are okay. I haven't had any problems with that. And I've lived on the western slope also, where we had colder temperatures. I worry about the fire, or there's also like an emission. Some of them, they give off like a fume that can kill your birds. And it also helps kind of prevent them from their natural instincts or resilience to the weather. So if you're always inside and you're always at like 80 degrees, if you go outside and it's 20 degrees, your body's gonna have a hard time adjusting to that. So it kind of goes against that. I mean, I have friends from Texas and Florida, and they come up here and they say, oh, my land, this is so cold. And my family, we're walking around in t-shirts and soccer shorts, and so I'm like, this isn't cold yet. It's only 60. But for them, it's cold because they're not used to that. That huge swing in temperatures can be hard for some people. So I personally do not heat my coop. I do have lights out there. I have light bulbs up in the ceiling. They're far from where the girls can get to, and they have little like cages around them too. So if anybody can fly up there, they're not going to knock over a light bulb. Or I don't want glass blowing around or hurting them. And I don't want any kind of fire out there. We're not set up for that. So I don't use either. And I know it's probably controversial, but that's what works for my family here. We live in southern Pueblo, so it's today's a little windy and cold. Little windy is kind of like an understatement with the wind, but well, okay, next slide. Super cute. I'm a knitter and a crocheter. I have started making hats because it's really popular. I just want to take pictures. I do dress my goats up for Christmas cards and stuff. I don't have any little hats, so I'm looking at doing that and some scarves. So little Vanna White here might dress up at one time, but please do not dress up your chickens in the wintertime. It's going to constrict them from puffing out their feathers, which is how they kind of conserve their heat source. We really want them to be able to puff and fluff out. That's how, I mean, it may look funky, but that's what they need to do. So if you have a little sweater on them, they're not gonna be able to move properly. Some of them will hinder them from actually flying onto their roosts. So I'm not a fan of sweaters unless you're taking a really cute picture. And in that case, grab a couple sweaters so you can get them all lined up. But I would say for winter, they do not need sweaters. Next slide.
Alrighty, so with that, I'll stop screen sharing here. And that way, I know, Chelsea, you're our one person on here, but if you want to unmute, if you have any questions or comments or just want to share your experiences with any birds you've had, we'd love for you to come online and kind of just chat with us, or if you have any questions for our speaker tonight.
I do not have any questions. I actually was interested in this class to make sure that I'm doing things correct. So this is my first winter overwintering birds. And like a lot of the things you just said I'm doing, I mean, I've got the heated bowls, I've got a good ventilated area. I don't have heat lamps. It's just everything like that. So it seems like I'm on the right track. I keep watching them and making sure they're okay. Recently, I mean, in Pueblo right now, it's not super cold besides today. There hasn't been too many days that's been super unbearably cold, but no, just had pumpkins out for them recently to peck on and enjoy and have as an activity. So yeah, no, really glad to sit in on the course and confirm that I'm on the right track and doing things correct.
Awesome. I'm glad this really helped you and like solidify that you're doing the right thing for your flock. It's fun. The corn really helps. We just got.
Well, I know we lost her. She might try to, oh, she's rejoining, so we're good. Joslyn, can you hear okay?
You can come back.
Yeah, you're good.
I think my Vanna White blinked or did something wrong, but no, it sounds like you're doing very well, Chelsea. If you have any questions, but corn, pumpkins is really great. They love those.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much.
Sure.
Perfect. Well, that's kind of all we have, Chelsea. I do have a quick survey, so I'm going to stop recording so we can do that, and then I know we're a little early for tonight, but thanks for watching our first Overwintering Poultry webinar. If you have any additional poultry specific questions or would like to get in contact with our Miss Joslyn Rafferty, our speaker tonight, please give the Extension office a call at 719-583-6566 and ask to talk to Beth. They will connect you with me directly, and I'll be able to assist you with any additional poultry or any other livestock questions you may have. Thanks for watching.